Hi, I'm Prapo, and on this channel I've already made quite a few videos in German about the case files of Jubilee Richard. But I also want to introduce this series to international fans, so today I'm trying somewhat new and making a video in English. English is not my first language, but I do my best. This video is for people who are curious about Jubilee Richard, whether you've seen the anime, heard about the novels, or just had some pretty fan art show up on your timeline. I want to explain what the story actually is, what it isn't, and what you can expect if you decide to start reading it. I've known this series since the anime first aired in 2020, and I started reading the light novels and the manga as soon as the English translations came out. So I've been living with the story for quite a while. Of course, everything I say is just my own perspective and analysis, but I'm always happy to talk about it with other fans. In my German videos, I've already done some deep dive on the novels, compared the anime and the light novels, and talked about themes like queerness in the story and the meaning of Etranje. So this video is more of a big overview, not a super detailed analysis. Most people probably know the case files of Jubilee Richard from the 2020 anime. Some might have read the manga, or one or two of the light novels. The basic setup is simple. A college student, Seigi, meets a mysterious jeweler named Richard. Seigi starts working part-time at Richard's shop, Etranje, and every chapter focuses on a different customer and gemstone, but also on how these two slowly build a complicated, evolving bond. It's a quiet drama mystery series, and very much a character-driven story. We watch Seigi grow from a pretty naive student into a more worldly adult. His life revolves a lot around Richard, yes, but also around his family, his past, and the other people he meets along the way. The story tackles a lot of heavy emotional themes and gradually introduces a whole cast of really great side characters. The anime only shows a small part of that and focuses more on the mystery and drama of each case. The novels go surprisingly deep in every direction. Sometimes it's ridiculously cute, and other times it completely breaks your heart. And now I want to talk about what most people seem to care about. The relationship between Richard and Seigi. Is this boys' love? Is it queerbait? Do they get together? Do they kiss? Let me start with why people even think there might be something more there. Honestly, it's not exactly subtle. Even people who had only seen the anime usually notice that there's more going on, even though the anime only barely scratches the surface of their relationship. You can feel right away that they have a certain chemistry, that they're closer than just boss and part-timer employee. Richard teaches Seigi a lot, and Seigi is curious and wants to learn more about gemstones, but also about Richard himself. And if we look at the novels, it becomes even clearer why people read it that way. Seigi is basically constantly gushing about Richard. They go out to eat together, get to know each other better, find out about each other's preferences. And despite all their differences, they slowly and awkwardly grow closer. If I only listed all the cute moments between Richard and Seigi, it would absolutely sound like a boys' love romance. But that's not what the story is. It's not a typical romance. It's not marketed as boys' love. But that doesn't mean it's just queerbait either. So how do you describe a story that is full of queer themes, but never uses clear labels itself, and very deliberately blurs the line between friendship, love, family, and partnership? For me, a big part of it is exactly that. That you can't just point at the story from the beginning and say, okay, this is definitely boys' love, and here's the one big scene where it becomes official. Their relationship develops slowly, over many years, and through a lot of different phases, and that's what makes it so compelling. At one point in the story, Seigi himself asks, where exactly is the line between friendship and love anyway? And he realizes that, if you seriously think about it, that question is actually really hard to answer. In real life, that line isn't clearly drawn either. Something I personally really love is that the author herself has written about this topic, about the question, where's the line between bromance and boys' love? She says that, sure, if you're thinking in genre terms, you can frame it like this. Bromance is when nothing clearly romantic happens, and boys' love is when you have explicitly romantic scenes, like holding hands as a couple, kissing, and so on. But then the next question immediately appears: what even counts as romantic? And she writes that she herself doesn't really believe there's a strict border between friendship and romantic love. For her, it's more of a gradual shift, and bromance and boys love overlap a lot, both in what is shown and in which fans enjoy it. So she feels there's no need to desperately force everything into one category or the other. Everyone has their own preferences, and we should just appreciate that. And that's exactly what you can see reflected in the case files of Jubilar Richard. The relationship between Richard and Seigi doesn't fit neatly into one category. It has elements of friendship, of a mentor-student dynamic, of partnership, and yes, also of something that many readers will read as romantic. Some fans prefer to see their bond as queer and romantic. Others read it as a very intense, but ultimately platonic relationship. And from what I've seen, the author herself has said she's happy to leave that choice up to the readers. So neither a more boys love style reading or a platonic reading is wrong. But the story itself still refuses to stamp their relationship with a clear label. Instead, it shows two people who keep choosing each other again and again over the course of years, no matter what word you decide to use for it from the outside. There's a German saying, der Weg ist das Ziel. The closest English version would be, the journey is the destination. For me, that describes Jubilar Richard really well. Every tiny step in their relationship, every conversation, every hurt, and every reconciliation matters. It's not about one single big payoff moment where everything suddenly changes. It's about the entire path that leads there. That's why I always tell new readers, don't go into the series expecting a clear, genre-typical romance. If that's what you're looking for, you'll probably end up frustrated. The relationship between Richard and Seigi is more like a subplot, woven into a much larger story about family, trauma, identity, and healing. And just because it's a story about two men doesn't mean you have to automatically file it under boys love. It also took me a long time to really understand all of this myself. At first, I went into the story with zero expectations that anything would ever happen between Richard and Seigi, because stories like this usually just end up disappointing me. But even in the anime, I started noticing all the small hints, and in the novels, it goes even deeper, to the point where I also caught myself thinking, okay, so are they together now? Is something already going on in the background? The further I read though, the more I started to see the bigger picture. Nothing is actually being hidden. Their relationship is always exactly what we see on the page, in all its different forms. That's also why it's so rewarding to reread the books. You can look at the same scenes again and again from a slightly different angle. So I really can only recommend giving the novels a chance and being open for the fact that the story talks about a lot of things besides just Richard and Seigi. There are no huge dramatic payoff moments just for the sake of fan service. And yet, hopefully, you start to see what can make a story truly queer, and why slapping a boys love label on it would actually take away a lot of its magic. I'll put some links in the description to where you can buy the books in English. You can also start with the manga, because it follows the original more closely than the anime, but the release schedule is a lot slower. Right now, volume 6 of the manga has just finished adapting volume 3 of the light novels. There will be more, but it's going to take a while. If you're interested, I'd be happy to go into more detail in future videos. Maybe about specific volumes, characters or themes. Just let me know in the comments or wherever you find me. Maybe we see each other again in another video. Bye. Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed analysis. Ich habe das Wort eben gerade einigermaßen richtig ausgesprochen. Analysis? Ich habe mich das gerade ausgesprochen. So not a super detailed analysis. Alter, ich habe es doch gerade eben richtig ausgesprochen. Jetzt habe ich es vergessen, wie man das ausspricht. Ja. Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed analysis. Not a super detailed analysis.